a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you for staying with us. You know, it's Monday morning, and of course on Mondays we always speak with our friends from the T.T.P.S, and this morning we have in studio with us Senior Superintendent Rohdill Kirk and Sergeant Brent Batson. This morning we're going to get our weekly updates as to what happened on the island of Tobago, and of course speak on a special topic as well. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome.
Good morning, Adanna. Good morning to your listeners. Good morning to your viewers. Well, to kick things off, what I can tell you is that during the week we had some successes. We also had some unfortunate situation. One of them in Scarborough on Friday night, we had a shooting incident. Thank God that the police were out on patrol in the area at that point in time, so they were able to, respond quickly. And I know that based on the investigation so far, I know that an arrest is imminent. Right? The victim in that shooting, he's reported as being stable. So again, thankfully that it wasn't a worse of situation than what it actually is. We can also tell you that our officers, through intelligence-led policing, had retrieved 1 pistol and 5 rounds of ammunition during the week. And what we recognize that the person of interest in respect to that is a person who is currently out on bail for a capital offense. And these are some of the things that we notice, that the trend that most of our problems are caused by our repeat offenders. So our police strategically target our priority offenders. And you're going to see going forward, we are going to relent. We are not going to ease up, especially in the situation around Scarborough, where we have these guys fronting with other businesses like they are doing, but they are doing the illegal things. We have already started to treat with it, but we are going to seek assistance from the public health and all of that in treating with these illegal vending and those persons who congregate in these hotspots in Scarborough. So this is something we are working on, so I just want to let the public know that we are treating with that. Other than that, the Heritage Festival, Plymouth Juve, and all the other activities over the weekend, we have no reported incidents, so that is, the police were out in their numbers, and everything went well that I could see. So I have nothing much to report. In addition to that, we have our exercises ongoing, and you could see my colleague, Mr. Batson, travel all the way from Trinidad. I know you are hearing talk on the ground that, it's oppression, but I'm saying that we are enforcing the law. And when we don't do it, people say that the police is not doing what they are charged with the responsibility to do. Now that we are doing it, people are saying that we are unfair to motorists, etc. But the exercise is not only geared towards motorists. They are doing their thing in respect of public safety, road safety, etc. We are doing our thing in terms of managing crime and criminality throughout the island. So I just want to give way to my colleague, Mr. Batson, here, to see what they're about in the Tobago space.
Sure. Thanks, Commander Kirk. So, this is a joint road policing exercise. So it's T.T.P.S as well as the licensing authority. And even though I've seen a whole set of memes already coming up, or the the white shirt devils here, and doing their thing, But as Commander Kirk mentioned, I want everybody to understand that our job is law enforcement. The T.T.P.S does not legislate. Our job is to enforce the laws on the books. When it comes to the use of the roads, for you to operate that vehicle on that black carpet, as we call it, you have to comply with certain regulatory requirements. Our job is to go out there, apply it, and make sure everybody's complying with those regulations. Now, whereas we agree that, it's hard times and people, are saying that, these tickets are expensive and this and that, and we understand that. And in most cases, actually, people don't even know that how much warnings we give as per the amount of tickets we actually dispense. But there's certain things that we cannot let slide. A good example was over the weekend for the Juve festival in Plymouth. We had a DUI team that was outside there, and we arrested and charged 3 drivers for exceeding the breath alcohol limit of 35 micrograms. And personally, one of the reactions from some driver, how much is that ticket? There's no ticket for this. It's arrest without warrant. It is too serious of offense to just give a fixed penalty notice and let the person go. So persons have to understand that the responsibility of operating that motor vehicle on that roadway is so serious because you affect other people's safety when you do the wrong thing.
And I want to get into this conversation a little bit later. Before I get in there, I want to marry the two the projects that you guys are working on in terms of how the trafficking or your policing impacts the intelligence in terms of sifting out criminals who might be in these same vehicles. We're talking about the roadblocks and as you rightfully said, they call them the white shirts or whatever. They have their projects to do. You have your assignment to do. How do you marry these together in terms of detecting when you implement roadblocks? A lot of people are crying out, roadblocks are not the solution to solving crime, right? But how do you justify or how do you bring that measure of public trust and comfort in the fact that, listen, these roadblocks are actually contributing to T.T.P.S. Apprehending or even finding or getting more information in terms of where the criminals are. We have arrested criminals as a result of the roadblocks, or we got more information as we had these roadblocks. We were able to interrogate people as a result of these roadblocks. Are we getting those types of results as a result of the exercises that are ongoing now?
I would say yes, because when you look, even self, you may not see it on a larger scale in Tobago where firearms and so on are recovered. When you look at in Trinidad, that has happened over the week and over the weekend, several firearms and ammunition were retrieved during these road exercises. And I'm saying it's not geared towards, as people say, making money. No. Criminals move from point A to B, and they are not using an aeroplane or a chopper. They are actually either moving on foot or in some modes of transportation, either motor vehicle, motorcycle, etc. So whilst in fact that the traffic enforcement officers are doing their thing, I'm seeing quite a lot of firearms being recovered by persons who are doing traffic exercises. And that is because when they do the traffic exercises, the other parties that are involved will also do the searches of the vehicle. And they will recover firearms and ammunition. So this is all about, if you look at all the recent shootings, even within Tobago, a vehicle was used. A vehicle was used to get away. So, and when you look at the caliber of weapon that they're having is high-powered weapons. And nobody can walk in the street just like that with a high-powered weapon. They have a vehicle that they're moving in. So I just want to tell people, to fix it, you may be inconvenienced a little. And just give us the chance, let us do what we are paid to do. This is what you have been calling upon us to do all the time. And they always have this thing. I want to make it clear here. There is no Tobago police and Trinidad police. We have the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So at times, officers from Tobago will be in the space, likewise. So it's not to say, well, okay, we distinguish it. They are here to support us, and we will give them the support that they need. And his one aim is to eradicate crime and criminality from the space, right? So that's why we are here.
And I do hope, of course, the collaborative efforts will bring the results, as you mentioned earlier, in the success stories that you have achieved over the past couple of weeks. And so I continue to, speak with our listening audience, our viewing audience, to cooperate with the police. We always see on this channel, every time we talk with the T.T.P.S, if you see something, if you know something, say something, because they are here to assist all of us while we try to fight crime here on the island of Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go for a short break, but when we come back, we're going to continue talking about fighting crime on the island of Tobago, and we're going to speak specifically to the trafficking issue on the island of Tobago. So stay with us, and as you stay with us, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Good morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you for staying with us. We continue conversations this morning, speaking with representatives from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Services. We're speaking with Senior Superintendent Rohdill Kirk and, of course, Sergeant Brent Batson. We want to take the conversation now into trafficking. right? And we started speaking earlier about how the police who are managing the traffic and, doing the roadblocks and the searches, they have been able to support and assist in detecting crime and finding weapons and all sorts of things that are transported, as Senior Soup mentioned, that of course they take these high-powered weapon in some sort of vehicle. And as I mentioned, also people complain over the weekend, especially as the licensing officers were here, and I'm certain that they're working in collaboration with the T.T.P.S, enforcing the law and ensuring that persons adhere, their vehicles are roadworthy, and all these types of things. And so people are crying out and saying it's a humbug. Senior Soup, you always say it's going to be an inconvenience, but the main objective here is to detect crime, to apprehend criminals, and to ensure that we live in a safe space.
Sure.
And so now we're talking about road safety. We see a lot of vehicles, one, that are not roadworthy, and we see people using the roadways in a way that is very dangerous and hazardous to pedestrians and other vehicle operators as well. So we want to have that conversation as well this morning and talk us through. First, we need to be reminded of the speed limits in certain areas, because I don't think people totally understand or get this. And what are the fees or that will be imposed on them. Earlier you mentioned driving under the influence is not a ticketable offense, it's an arrestable offense. So I feel as if people need to get this information cemented in their minds, that they understand the law properly and that they are mobilized into action, because we take so many things for granted. So let's just have that conversation in terms of detecting or managing the way we use the roadways here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Sure. Well, I also want to mention the fact that, even with our road policing efforts, the public has to understand what that ultimate goal is. As you correctly said, it's injury and harm prevention on the roads and, of course, general. But what we're doing with these roadblocks is disruption. The criminal element, just like anything, is a business. And you have a business plan. So they plan to go up and hit this one and target this one. But as Senior Soup mentioned, they need to use your road. So by us having these constant roving unplanned, you don't know where we're going to be. You don't know what time we're going to be out there. We are disrupting that element. And that's what we're trying to. So we're deterring those elements. Don't even think of coming out there. Because you don't know, one, we're using marked, we're using unmarked vehicles. So you're not too sure where we are. And that's really how we're trying to utilize intelligence-led policing to know at what time to deploy these resources. But more important, let them know there's serious consequences, breaches. In most cases, let me give you a good example, as you mentioned, because the enforcement levels. When we are outside there just doing a usual road check, remember we're using technology-based interventions. The ticketing devices now that we have real-time feeds into the licensing database for driver's permit information, of course, as well as vehicle registration information. And in one scenario, we had a vehicle that we stopped that had a tampered chassis, right? So this guy actually has an illegal or unregistered vehicle on the roadway at this point. And again, it means, why is it unregistered? The insurance is not invalid because it's not a really registered vehicle. This man slapped on his own plate onto this vehicle and decided nobody's going to pick up on it. And it's that level, I would say, of bold-facedness that you could just flout the law like that, and something so serious, because people think, well, it's trivial, the man have a license. That's not the point. If the vehicle is involved in an accident, God forbid, pedestrian is hit or something, the insurance, there's no coverage for this. It's not a truly registered vehicle to begin with. So the policy is void, and as far as the insurance is concerned, it was a registered car. So the enforcement goes on every level. It's the same thing with the vehicles with regards to a lot of those persons involved in these criminal elements using these false plates. So a lot of times you'd find that we are applying a little bit more surveillance when we're doing our vehicle checks to just make sure this is the vehicle that's supposed to be. Personnel, when we're outside there, we're also double checking persons' disqualification status. A lot of times the drivers of these vehicles, or I call them the bad boy drivers, they have a long ticket rap sheet. And in most cases, they're already disqualified from driving. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I want to remind persons, we cracked out 11 disqualification letters to persons. These are persons who have been already initially disqualified because they've met that demerit point threshold, and they still continue to drive. So licensing, they tell me, hey, you have 14 days to bring in that driver's permit, all right? Or now it turns into driving while disqualified, which is another arrest without warrant. Okay, so you come out of the ticketing system and go into the criminal justice system when you commit these offenses. And these are serious offenses. Persons seem to not understand. Once you're disqualified by licensing authority, you cannot operate a motor vehicle, period. The insurance is invalid.
That's right.
And persons are still taking these chances. Even people work in PH who are disqualified.
Now, this is some scary things, because if you are disqualified, whether it's for driving under the influence, whatever it is, falsifying documents, whatever the charges are racking up to for your disqualification, and yet here you are with a vehicle driving on the nation's roads. I mean, this really is scary. And so I'm wondering now how people, as you mentioned, so bold-faced, to think that they could get away with something like this, and now they're seeing it as an inconvenience because they're being detected and the law is being enforced. So is it that we now have a more aggressive approach in terms of enforcing the law, because people seem to have been so relaxed for so long?
Yeah. Again, because the technology that is here now wasn't here 3-4 years ago. That allowed us this kind of real-time surveillance of the system and the status of drivers. In addition to that, we encourage all drivers. Go on to the Ministry of Works website. There's an application. You punch in your driver's permit, your date of birth. There's this little security thing that you have to do. And you can check your point situation. Because sometimes people are not aware that the merit point threshold is 10 points. That could be just 3 tickets you got and you hit it. So persons need to be aware. More than likely, letters have been sent out. And there's some people dodging the letters.
Yes.
We know that for a fact.
Yes.
I know that for certain, And there are some things that people don't realize that they can get the merit points for,
Sure.
And I'm not sure if this is one, but sometimes the young men like to have the hard pongs, what they call hard pongs, so loud music while driving a vehicle. Even I understand that there's a new tint law that is introduced today, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if we have more information on that. We could talk about that as well. So I don't know. I feel as if people need to understand the list of offenses that can be committed that will have caused a demerit on their license.
And just the thing I noticed on the Tobago roads at nights, even daylight, you're seeing some pretty lights, some Christmas tree lights.
Yes.
And
Very
people
distracting.
definitely don't care. You are seeing the driving, without a care for any other thing with these Christmas tree lights, and we are going to deal with that. So I just want them to know that we are going to come, and they will tend to flick the switch when they see the police. But some of them are even doing that these days.
Yeah,
they'll just continue to go because it starts to become like they feel like, they could do it. So those are things we are going to enforce as well. Notwithstanding that it may seem like a trivial thing, the commissioner has rolled out an initiative, a zero tolerance approach to all acts of crime and criminality. So the thing about giving a blind, we ain't going to do that.
Those days are over. That's right.
Well, I say, you always say, careful what you ask for, you just might get it.
That's right.
You ask the police to be out there and apply everything. All right, we coming out. You sure that's what you want? Because if everybody just does the right thing, we'll be good to go.
Definitely.
But some people seem to be hell-bent on going down this gangster road of being a bad boy, not realizing that's TV and movie stuff.
I want to read something that one of our viewers commented on our live stream. They said that, of course, they're always challenging the policing. And this viewer said that some of these charges are unprecedented, and you all are making up charges as you go along, and it has nothing to do with safety. So how do we respond to this? Because I'm certain that, I would like to believe that all the charges that are being, that you charge people for in terms of the offenses are legal.
Right. So that I just want to clarify that one time. I don't know how he used the word unprecedented there and that, but what I will say is that is impossible. We cannot trump up charges. We could only issue fixed penalty notices or tickets based on the law. The device is tied into legal regulations that exist on the law books. So that's impossible for us to trump up charges, okay? I just want to be that clear. Now, it may seem onerous. So, for example, what a lot of people, as you correctly mentioned today, and I don't want to preempt the minister's launch of the tint rollouts. And I want to be clear, what they're launching today is a tint sensitization rollout, not an enforcement rollout. Okay. Now, never mind, people had a lot of time, all right, to comply with the law. They're still giving them time, to go and comply. Yeah. And what I'll try and do is, because we're here for a while, so once you do that official rollout, we are willing to come back to give you some demonstrations on that so persons will better understand the law. Because persons saying, well, why are you focusing on tint now? You're not running down bandits. Ask the senior soup how much morning reports we get just before the incident. Is a heavily dark, tinted vehicle involved in the criminal activity? What you hiding so? That you don't want us to see. Yeah. So this is one, there are different tools being deployed on how we could, effectively coerce these criminal elements into the light. And this is just one tool.
I always kind of want to agree with some of the approaches that are taken, especially when it comes to road safety. At Senior Soup, you would agree with me when we have conversations about road safety. I'm always adamant in terms of how we use the roads. And of course, now we're talking about the condition of our vehicles and complying with the laws that apply to our vehicles. And, as the licensing officers are here, they're checking to make sure that your tires are not smooth and, and all these things that apply to ensuring that we use the roadways safely. And, sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, we forget there are things like the speed limits. There are certain areas where you can go a certain speed and other areas where you have to slow down a bit. Overtaking and around a corner and all these things that people do on the nation's roads that can, implicate that can jeopardize, rather, person's safety on the nation's roads. And I want you to talk a little bit about that before we wrap this conversation this morning in terms of how do we navigate the road in a safe way. Sometimes I'm driving and I don't understand how I'm overtaken on the shoulder. Why are you overtaking on the shoulder? So we want to address some of those things as well to ensure people understand, listen, one simple mistake that you make on the road can have an effect on multiple persons.
And not only that, because we're based with the Highway Patrol. There's no other unit that responds more to fatal road traffic accidents and serious road traffic than us. And we see the consequences of poor driving decisions, poor road user decisions, because sometimes it involves pedestrians that run in front of traffic. Yeah. The driver didn't have a chance to stop. So everybody has that role and function in order for injury and harm prevention to prevail. I'm glad you mentioned the speed issue, because persons don't seem to understand one or pay attention sometimes when the roadway speed limits change. Good example is the vicinity by Bonaccord there. We're coming off the Claude Noel, it moves straight from an 80 into a 50. Yeah. And then when you're out there enforcing speed, the people say, it was 80 back then. You're no longer in the 80 zone. Look at all the houses, residential area now. It can't be 80 still. Come on. Look at all the pedestrians. There's no pavements for the pedestrians in some areas. You're sharing the road with other road users. That guy on that bicycle, that pedestrian has the same right to the road as you in the car. They're part of traffic. You have to drive with that kind of caution and reduce your speed. We're surprised and disappointed. We were doing some road check exercises, and there were persons driving with no seatbelt on, straight into us. And then when we stopped and asked the document, why are you not wearing a seatbelt? Hey, hard luck there, boss. I now drive out there from the gas station. Well, all right, let me give you this to remind you. That's a whole $1,000 and 4 demerit points. But yet it's the most critical part that's going to save your life in the event of accident. And I have to ticket you to put that on? Come on.
Yeah, I feel as if we take a lot of things for granted here in Trinidad and Tobago when we use the roads. As he rightfully said, he said what? Sorry, their partner.
Yeah, hard luck, their boss.
Just hard luck, their boss, And we really do take things for granted. And I feel as if, this saying that we have that God is a Trini, we really abuse that statement, and we just do whatever we want and expect some other force to pick up the pieces in the end.
But then the same persons, when they travel abroad, the first thing as they jump into a car, they will obey all the traffic regulations. But as we on the end, what I want to do is to continue to urge the public to cooperate with us. We have seen that collaboration and cooperation. So far, we have recovered 11 firearms for the year. It may be a small drop in the bucket, but that's 11 firearms. Thinking about each firearm carries about 15 or 18 rounds. That is about, when you multiply it, how much lives are being saved. Although you may see the shooting incidents, it's because of the vigilance of persons now and their quick thinking in calling the police. We were able to charge a few people for some of the shooting incidents, and as long as the public continue to cooperate with us, we are going to do what we are charged with the responsibility of doing, and you should see that level of vigilance. We know that at times it may seem, like overwhelming, but rest assured that the police will come out and do all we are empowered to do. So I just want the public to know that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking with representatives of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Services, Senior Superintendent Rohdill Kirk and Sergeant Brent Batson this morning, as they brought information to us as it relates to what's been happening on the island of Tobago, detecting crime, and of course you would see them out on our nation's roads, managing the traffic. Yes, trafficking, policing in traffic this morning and throughout the couple of weeks to come, because of course we have to regulate and ensure that we abide by the law. We have to adhere for my safety, for your safety, and for the safety of all of your loved ones, to ensure that Tobago remains a safe space and that we can boast about being the greatest little island on the planet. Thank you so much for staying with us up until this point. We have to go for a short break. And as we go for a break, of course, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.